As you could tell at the end of the last video, I was running out of time. I'm using a software that only allows you so much time for free. If I wanted to use more time, then I have to pay for it. I'm cheap and not going to do it. Sorry. So I'm going to create another one just to kind of go over this real fast, so we can so you guys would be aware of this. There's all the converses and theorems and stuff like that, but the main thing I wanted to focus on is this right here. Okay. Now, this Pythagorean theorem only works if we have a right triangle. Okay. Pythagorean theorem does not work if you have anything else besides a right triangle. Now, if you have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then you have a right triangle. If you have a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, you have an obtuse triangle. And then if you go and do a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then you have an acute triangle. Okay, so you might have some questions on a few questions on that, things like that. So just be aware of those. If a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, obtuse. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, it's acute. And a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, then it is a right triangle. So let's classify these triangles. So the c squared is going to be the one opposite as the longest side. Okay, we don't necessarily know it's a right triangle, so that's what we're trying to figure out. So the c is going to be your 15, so let's set this up. 9 squared plus 12 squared is equal to 15 squared. So 9 squared is going to be 81, plus 12 squared, which is 144, plus 15 squared, which is 225. So when you add this, when you add 81 and 144, you end up with 225 is equal to 225. So this one this particular triangle right here is going to be a right triangle. So when we look at the second one, our C in this one is going to be this one here. So let's set this up. We have 15 squared plus 36 squared is equal to 4 times radical 95 squared. 15 squared is 225 plus 36 squared, which is 1,296. And then when we have the is equal to 4 radical 95 squared, remember how we talked about that before? You can write it twice. Outside times outside, inside times inside. Outside times outside is 16. And the inside times inside basically is anytime you multiply a square root times itself, it's just going to be that number. So if you have square root of 95 times the square root of 95, it's just going to come out by the time you take the square root of it as just 95. So when you multiply those two numbers, you end up with 1,520. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. 225 plus 1,296 is equal to 1,520. So when you add it up, you end up with 1,521 is equal to 1,520. So what we have here is that this side is going to be more. The a squared plus b squared is going to be more. So it's going to be greater than the c squared. So if we go back and look and see which one, when a squared is b squared, is greater than c squared, that makes this an acute triangle. I'll rewrite that. Also, too, if I'm going through this too fast, remember you can always rewind. And at the same time, if this is going to sound kind of boring, less pizzazz, not much to it, part of it is because it is roughly about 11:30, and my family is in bed. So I don't want to wake them up and go a little crazy, and also at the same time, I'm a little tired myself. So that's also trying to keep my voice down, maybe lower. Hopefully, maybe you can turn it up, you can hear it. But that's the main reason why, is because I don't want to wake anybody up. So let's take a look at this last one here. First, let's spot out the c squared, or the c. That's going to be your c. So when we set this up, we have 7 squared plus 8 squared is equal to radical 113 squared. 7 squared is 49 plus 8 squared, which is 64, is equal to, and anytime you square a square root, it cancels those out. So just end up with 113. So when you add 49 plus 64, you end up with 113 is equal to 113. Okay, so they're equal to each other. Since they're equal to each other, this is going to be a right triangle. As of right now, we're going to take example 2, and we'll cross it out. We're not going to do any of those. The only thing about on the bottom one in example 3, I just want to show you one that was considered an obtuse triangle. Okay, so again, so we're going to cross this one out, and we're going to look at B. 2 squared plus 12 squared equal to 14 squared. 2 squared is 4. 12 squared is 144, equal to 14 squared, which is 196. So when you end up adding 144 and 4, you end up with 148, which is equal to 196. Well, technically, when you look at it, you notice that this is going to be bigger than 196, or this c squared is going to be bigger. Therefore, that's going to be an obtuse triangle, because the c squared is larger, because the c squared here is larger than the a squared plus b squared. Now I'm not going to go over the c or d, but I do want to let you know, when you're doing this, be sure you pick out what the c is going to be. Okay, so like in the example, let's see. So in the next example, technically, this square root of 114 will be the c. Okay, even though it's listed second in your problem, you have to determine which one is going to be the biggest one before you start anything. Just because you have the list of numbers doesn't mean they're always in lowest or least to greatest form. You have to figure out which one the c is by maybe doing some calculations. Okay, but we're not going to go over those, and typically we're going to be done. So now you need to go get your scavenger hunt answer sheet, or if you have it out already, go ahead, start that, and work those problems around the room, things like that, and just make sure you try to get those done, and things like that. So I will see you Thursday.